Hello everyone, this is going to be my second episode on You're Not Invulnerable. This is a series about me talking about the whole 411 conspiracy nonsense, along with me giving you helpful tips when you go out hiking and stuff like that. We'll get to the 411 type stuff at the end of the video here. But I want to go over some things I've learned over the years. I mean, I know it doesn't look like it, but me and the wife actually hike a lot, and we're pretty good at it. We're not runners, we're not bodybuilders, anything like that, but there's physically fit people I can move faster than in the woods. And that's important for you to remember, that just because you might think you're peak physical shape, that doesn't mean you're not prone to mistakes and injury. We're people. We're not perfect, okay? I have made some bad mistakes, mostly in my younger days when I was a lot more physically fit and a lot more risk-taking than I am these days. I made those mistakes and fortunately survived to tell you about a lot of them so you don't have to go through what I did. That's the whole point of these type of educational videos. So in this episode, I kind of went back and forth on what to talk about. And I decided to go with short hikes. Now, this can be divided into subcategories as well. Like, are you doing a short hike in the desert in the summer, or a short hike in the woods in the winter in the UP, stuff like that. But that can go on and on too. And I might break those out later. Basically, when I say short hikes, I mean hikes that are less than, 2 miles in round trip, which is what? About 3 kilometers, something like that round trip. So we'll keep it there. And, I could sit there and talk about terrain, which I'm still going to and whatnot, but I decided to just keep it here because there are some things you probably always want to bring with you, regardless of how long the hike is, regardless of how familiar you are with the trail, and regardless of the topography and terrain. So that's kind of the focus of this. And then there's stuff you should never bring with you on hikes, short, long, or otherwise. But we'll stick to short hikes here. Something you always want to bring, and even I have failed at doing this, is enough water. Well, what is enough water? And notice I said water, and I'm going to leave water there for right now. I'll come back to why water, not other things. Well, it depends. If you're a bigger person, and depending on the heat, depending on how much clothes you're wearing, stuff like that, you can bring a little more. But generally on a nice, calm hike through the woods that's no more than 2 miles, about a quart is going to usually be enough. But you always want to take a little extra, because even though it could be a very familiar trail to you, and you could have done it a dozen times, something can happen to you. Or you can get turned around. I've seen this, especially in recent years. I've seen people hiking while on their phones a lot. And, phones are key to helping you navigate and helping you get out of a jam, especially today's smartphones. But when you're distracted, it doesn't have to be your phone, any distraction, you could miss that turn. Or you could go off trail and end up on a deer trail. And before you notice it, you don't know where you are. That happens. Like I said, we're not infallible, all right? People make mistakes. So if you think you need a quart, bring 2. If you think you need 2, bring a gallon. And I know I'm using quarts here. And a gallon, I think, is about 3.8 liters, something like that. I'll correct it on screen if I'm wrong. Just so you get a general idea. So a quart is roughly a liter, about, plus or minus. So anyway, so bring enough water. Why do I say water and not something like Gatorade or something like that? Is because you can bring little Gatorade packets with you, put them in your pocket, add them to your water if you need that electrolytes. It's a lot easier than trying to carry around water and a Gatorade bottle. I mean, I know on short hikes, I've been guilty of that myself. Or I'll carry pop with me, 20-ounce pop with me. Shouldn't do that. Learn from my mistakes, okay? Now let's move on from enough water to something else here. That's really important. You always want to bring something for navigation. And on short hikes or long hikes or whatever, it doesn't matter. Now, on a short hike with good cell phone reception, you can use your phone for navigation. You can either look at a trail map or mark GPS coordinates, whatever. But your smartphone isn't always your best bet, because a lot of times there's no signal in these places. So if you're unsure about cell phone reception or your battery life for your cell phone, you probably want to bring other things with you that you really should bring anyway. You want to bring some sort of notebook, compass, and map. Okay, we'll come back to notebook. That one sounds odd, but compass. You always want to have a compass with you, but know its limitations. Lensatic compasses are real common, but you have to remember something about a lensatic compass or your standard cheap compasses. They align to magnetic north, and that arrow always points to magnetic north. Where I am, that's only off a couple degrees usually from true north. But magnetic north wanders annually. You know, it's never stagnant. And if you're out west, you could be, your magnetic north could be 20 degrees off from your true north. So if you think that compass is close to true north, even though you know it's magnetic north, and you're following it with a paper map, but you're using the map as true north, you could be walking northeast and not even know it. Another problem with standard compasses is you will see that they're laid out like this. And to most of us, that makes sense. Northwest, east, and south. You know, north is towards the North Pole, south to the South Pole, west, and if we face north, west is to our left, east is to our right. So why is that odd? Well, I actually use a Brunton, and you don't have to. They're $450 a piece. But they're like this, and you might be like, well, Steve, that's backwards. Well, here's the thing. Say I'm transiting and I'm facing north. Okay, so I'm facing north, and my compass, well, we'll do this. We'll add this one too. All right. Okay, northwest, east, and south. This is a traditional crappy compass. This is your Brunton type compass. And you're walking north, and you turn east, okay? You're going north, your body's turning east, but which way is your compass pointing here? You're going north, all right? East is this way. I turn east. Which way is my compass pointing? It's pointing to the west. It's these things like lensatic compasses are not direct read compasses. You got to keep that in mind. You can use them, but keep that in mind. Now on a Brunton, I'm walking north and I face east. My compass, you know, I'm turning east, so now I'm facing east, but my needle's still pointing north. I'm facing east. This is the direction my needle is pointing now. So it's a direct read. It looks backwards, but it's not. Also on a Brunton, you can adjust your magnetic declination. So you can find true north. So you don't have to figure any of this stuff out if you're really off. But like I said, as long as you know the limitations of your compass relative to your paper map, if you have one, you should be good. I say bring a paper map anyway, probably one with topo lines if you can, or at least a trail map, something where you can get actual bearings on, just because, you know, it can help you guide yourself back on the trail if you miss something or they change something like that. I prefer topographic maps, you know, USGS if possible, but if your phone getting signal, you can use All Trails, Google Maps, something like that. So it's not necessary to have a paper map for a short hike, but the map has to be reliable. I know a lot of these parks, especially state and county parks, they'll have trail maps, but honestly, it looks like a 5-year-old did it. So they're not really helpful. So you're better off using your phone there if you can. Now, before I move on, notebook. What does that mean? Well, you should bring a notebook. One, obviously, a writing utensil, and I suggest pen pencil. All right, not pen, because pens die. Use a mechanical pencil, it's more likely to survive. And, if you can, bring write in the rain stuff, but if you can't, just bring a notebook and keep it dry. And we're going to get into that later when we talk about GPS coordinates, keeping a log of those. This video is starting to get a bit long, so let's move on here. We have enough water navigation. You can bring a little bit of food with you. Maybe something snack size, something like that. Because remember, it's a short hike in case you get turned around and you do find your way back. Something with some salt with some electrolytes in it. All right, so you can bring a little thing of food with you, but always prepare just in case you do get really lost. In a short hike, and we're going to get into by yourself versus somebody here in a second, prepare for 2 days in case you get lost. All right, you should always do that. Knife and lighter. Why do I rate these? You should always have a knife with you. And I'm not talking Swiss Army knife. You can have that, but you need something with a little bit of cutting power to it. Because if you do get lost, it's going to save your life, more than likely. And I say lighter instead of matches. A lot of people like to carry matches, but you know what? They can get wet. They can fall out, a lot of things. Lighter is more reliable, and disposable ones are a lot more reliable. You may be attached to your Zippo, and that's fine to light your cigar, but these have more staying power than your Zippo does over long periods. All right, so you should always have a knife and lighter. Why the lighter? In case you do get lost, you do need to hunker down. If you can, if the terrain is right and stuff, you can start a fire for warmth, for one, and for two, to signal. Now, I'm not going to say to do this because I'll probably get demonetized, but let's just say this. If you are in desperation and you are absolutely hunkered down where you are and you can't get out, but you can move good enough so you're injured but not so injured you're completely immobile, start a big fire. I'm not going to say what to use or anything like that, because it'll send a signal if someone's searching for you. I mean, don't do it right away. I mean, no one's going to be searching for you an hour or two after you get lost. I mean, use your brain here, okay? I'm not going to tell you what to use to start those fires, but let's just say in a life-threatening situation, you're not going to get in trouble for it. If you're worried about getting in trouble, there's probably one or two wife sniffers that would, try to go after you for it, but, you just humiliate them publicly and they'll stop. But when your life is in danger, you're not going to get in trouble for doing what you need to do to signal other people. Probably one of the best things to do is bring a buddy. And what do I mean by buddy? Well, I'm not going to tell you not to bring your pet on a trail, but depending on how well trained your animal is, how attached it is to you and all of that, this is kind of an iffy subject here. Now, when we get to longer hikes, well, I'll probably come back to that, but I'm not going to tell you for the purposes here not to bring your animal unless it's not allowed. Glacier National Park, United States, not allowed to have dogs on the trails. People do it, and we've seen the rangers sit there like this and just sit on a rock and watch people come down. Boom, are right there to find them. It's always the same thing. My little dog Fifi would never hurt anybody. He's on my chest. He would never get startled, nip at anyone, or run off into the woods and chase a bear. Animal's probably not the best buddy for you, because you need something or someone that can go get help if you're injured. Now, what else does that exclude? Well, it excludes kids. You may sit there and think your 5-year-old is your little buddy. He's your little man, Yeah, cool, he is. You guys are really close. You're good father-son relationship, everything. But he's not going to be able to help you if you break your ankle in the middle of a desert, okay? That's not what I mean by buddy. You need somebody of competent, young adult, teenager at youngest to be with you. Someone who can seek help if one of you or the other is injured, okay? So your animals generally aren't going to be good for that. Your little kids generally aren't going to be good for that. So you need somebody competent and able to help out you, or you help out them if something happens to them. Now, the bad thing about a buddy system is if you're injured or something and immobile, that person has to leave you after a while. Don't leave right away. All right. If you have enough water and enough food and nobody's stressed or nobody's severely injured, say you just fell and your ankle's a little sore, but it's not sprained or anything, you need to rest. Don't just go off. I'm going to go get help and leave that person because you're going to create a problem. This has to do with serious injury or you guys have been gone for a while. There are exceptions to this. I will cover them in later episodes, but on a short hike, someone's going to go get help. And that's why it's also important to have a map and a GPS, or at least a map, or a smartphone. Smartphone, you can drop pins where you are too. You can send GPS coordinates to people, okay? So you can find help even if you are by yourself. But say you don't have cell phone reception, but you have a GPS. I have a mobile GPS receiver. They're like $100 now, and they'll get within, 10 feet, 3 meters. So they're pretty accurate right now, these day and age. And I use it to find outcrops. Anyway, so if you have a notebook and a GPS receiver, but you're not getting phone signal, you can put down your origin point where you park your car, your base camp, your ground zero, your area of operation, AO, whatever you want to call it. That hopefully you told someone where it was. And that's what you need to do. When you go somewhere, you need to always let someone know generally where you are. If you don't have a GPS coordinate, that's fine. I'm at XYZ State Park at the south entrance, at the first trailhead about a mile down the road. Text it to somebody and be like, I should only be gone 3 or 4 hours. I'm going on a short hike. So someone knows if they don't hear from you. But you also have to follow up if you do successfully do your hike so people don't get worried. But you can write down GPS coordinates in a notebook, and that other person hopefully knows how to use the GPS receiver and can find the way back to the car so they can get help for you. Okay, so that's what I mean by buddy. I mean a competent individual that can help you out or you can help them out. On short hikes, I think this is pretty much all you really need. Now, there are environment-dependent situations. If you're going on a short hike in the desert, you want sunscreen, you want sunglasses. We're going to get into clothing here in a minute. You want bug spray in the woods in the summer, stuff like that. That's all stuff that you should know to bring with you. You should always bring that kind of stuff on long hikes, but on short hikes, you should have enough sense to bring those kind of things with you based on your environment. But I know there's some people that don't, so that's why I just mentioned them. All right, the mosquito nets, things like this. Something else you should bring, and I don't really think it's necessary if you're wearing the right clothing, because what we'll do, we'll stick an extra sweatshirt in our backpack or something like that. If the temperature's not going to get that low at night and you're lost, a sweatshirt's probably fine to get you through the night. Hopefully it won't rain. You can't prepare for everything. You only prepare for what you can prepare for. You can't bring your house with you on your back. So if you can, bring one of those little silver heat blankets in case you need to wrap yourself up in one, in case you stay overnight. A simple hike like this, you don't really need to bring a tent with you or anything like that. We'll get into all that in longer hikes, because hopefully if you get lost, early enough to where someone needs to come find you. I mean, if you're only going to walk 2 miles, you should know about how long that takes you on level ground. And if you've been walking for 6 hours, you don't know where you are, chances are you've probably gone more than 2 miles. And something else you should do too, if you're completely unprepared, something like that in a short hike, stop, as long as you're not injured, stop, hunker down where you are, because you probably haven't gone that far. I'm hoping you realize you're lost in less than 6 hours. I mean, 2 miles, even with this, carrying this, on a nice level trail over even terrain, easy to moderate trails, we can do that in under an hour, under half an hour. All right. So if it's been 2 hours, you probably should sit and stop. You should spend your time yelling, especially if it's a crowded trail. Yell. Get a hoarse voice if you need to. You can stop for a few minutes and yell again. Okay. But if you have a buddy, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Prepare to hunker down for the night. And hopefully you sent someone your location and they know you sat there and said, I will contact you when you're back. If you don't hear from me, I'm missing after this amount of time. Call in and the search party will go out for you. If you keep wandering, you're just going to get more lost. And we'll go into that in other times. So I think that's pretty much it on that for short hikes. What not to bring. And some of the stuff might seem like common sense. but it needs saying, and I hate the phrase common sense anyway, because people that usually claim to have a lot of it have none of it. I'm not even sure if it has any meaning really, but anyway, I digress. What not to bring? I don't care what the terrain is. I don't care how far you're going. I don't care how in touch with nature you think you are. I don't care about any of that. Leave the fucking flip-flops and mandals at home and never go hiking in bare feet. Don't do it. We have shoes and brains for a reason. It's not 30,000 BC. If you get injured hard on your feet, that's going to immobilize you immediately. All right? Use this. I've seen people walk up sides of like near vertical cliffs wearing flip-flops. Don't do it. I recommend you don't wear shorts ever. This is why. I mean, this is kind of a judgment call. I'm not going to sit there and say you can't. But shorts, even in a wooded winter environment, obviously it's not a good idea. But it's not a good idea in the summer and in the desert either. Yeah, it's uncomfortable to sweat, but that's how we lose our body heat. It's a very efficient system. Yeah, it makes you uncomfortable, but suck it up. I don't know what to tell you. It's very expensive. So if you don't have a lot of this and you're walking around the desert in shorts, I don't care how much sunscreen you got on, you're going to get dehydrated probably before this hike is over. Some sort of first aid kit. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that, but simple first aid. If you're not injured that bad, but you got cuts and abrasions, you want to keep junk out of it. You don't want dirt getting in there. You don't want stuff getting, so bring gauze. Gauze is probably something you want more than Band-Aids. I've seen people do this too. So we're going to put this up there. Matter of fact, I know people who have done this, and this is all they bring. You might sit there and be like, boy, who would do that? I see it all the time on trails. Energy drinks. You're not at the gym, okay? You're not at the treadmill in your basement. You're at the mercy of nature. And I don't care what you think, nature's not your BFF, all right? It can turn nasty on you in an instant. This is not something you want to be pumping down your gullet in case you get lost. Yeah, they'll perk you up. They make you make bad decisions. I don't know. I don't think they do. But the crash is what you got to worry about. The bad decisions leading that you make after you crash, all that other stuff. Now can you bring a can of pop with you or something like that in case you do get lost for sugar, for the, sugar that might be needed or some salt? Yeah, but stay away from this garbage. All right. If you want to drink it on your own time, at work, whatever, I don't care. But don't take it into the woods with you. Unnecessary equipment. And I apologize if there's any misspellings. Trying to do this quickly. People argue about this, and this is generally for long hikes, but on short hikes, you need to bring stuff with you. And we've gotten really good over the years at minimizing what we bring. If you're taking more than 3 pounds or 1.5 kilos to 2 kilos with you on a short hike, you're bringing too much, unless it's this, okay? So, unnecessary equipment. What do I mean by that? Well, on a short hike, bring your tablet if you want. People like to take pictures with that. People like to write notes. But leave the laptop at home or in the car. Now, a lot of times what people will do is they won't want their car broken into, but they'll bring a lot of electronical crap with them. So they'll end up putting their laptop in there, or an expensive piece of equipment or something. Or back in the day, I would see people rip out their CDs and put it in a backpack. Don't do that, all right? Either cover it up or leave it at home. If it's just going to weigh you down, it can't help you in a bad situation. It's garbage if you're injured in the middle of nowhere. You can't use it as shelter. You can't eat it. You can't break it down for anything. And, MacGyver's a TV show, people, okay? It's not going to help you if you get lost. And people might be like, well, I want someone breaking my window and stealing something. Well, if you did bring it with you, you should be carrying one of these in your car always anyway. A blanket, cover it up. Or toss it in your trunk if you have a car. Just make sure no one's looking. Do something like that. But don't carry it on a hike with you. It's not really that big of a deal. But you got to remember, too, if it's not a crowded trail, you got to prepare for that as opposed to a very crowded trail. And one thing that I need to say that I hate to say it, you have to watch out for other people. Your greatest threat on a short hike in the woods isn't falling off a cliff. It's not a thunderstorm. It's not a bear attack. It's a predatory human being. That is your biggest threat out there. You have to prepare for that the best you can. And, I'm not going to tell you to bring a firearm with you, but we do it. People can be great. They can save your life. They can help you. They can be some sort of godsend, if you will. But most people aren't like that. Most people are going to take advantage of a situation if they can, especially if they're in that mindset. Don't go in the woods, number one, with anyone you don't know or trust. But also, be prepared to have people that are completely untrustworthy around you. I'm not saying be paranoid. I'm saying be rational about it. And you see someone, and I don't care if they're male, female, or otherwise, come past you, and they try to strike up a conversation, seem a little friendly, just keep going. All right, they could just be a chatterbox, but they could also be trying to distract you. Walk right past them, turn around and look to see if they keep walking. 9 out of 10 times they're going to leave you alone. But if they don't, you might need to defend yourself. But we're not going to get into that here. Anyway, that's it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I hope you learned something.